In 2007, a massive cargo vessel called the Meridian departed Iceland for a 6-day crossing to Canada. It never arrived. The ship, along with its 37 crew members, completely vanished somewhere in the North Atlantic. Authorities initially assumed the heavy freighter had been swallowed by a violent storm. Yet meteorological data from the ship's exact route showed perfectly calm seas for the entire duration of the voyage. Investigators found no traditional maritime evidence. No distress signals were ever transmitted. Search planes located no debris fields, no life rafts, no oil slicks. A marine investigator named Rachel Mercer spent a decade studying the disappearance. She mapped the Meridian's last recorded coordinates to an unmapped region of the ocean, informally referred to as the Quiet Water, a location mentioned in dozens of ship captains' journals. Those historical logs described physical events that defied explanation. Compasses would spin erratically or lock in place. Radios produced pure silence. Some crews even recorded hearing distinct voices coming from beneath the waves. Mercer pulled naval archives, insurance records, and Coast Guard reports from around the world. The Meridian was the latest entry in a pattern of over 70 ships that had vanished near the exact same coordinates since 1881, leaving zero trace behind. In 2031, Mercer joined a private research expedition to find out why. 12 crew members boarded the Horizon, a vessel heavily outfitted with advanced sonar arrays, deep-sea drones, and enough provisions to study the Quiet Water for 3 weeks. For 4 days, the crossing was entirely normal. On the 5th night, shortly after midnight, the waves flattened until the sea resembled an endless sheet of polished glass. The wind stopped completely. Then, every piece of communication equipment failed simultaneously. The ship lost its GPS and satellite connections. Audio technicians trying to restart the systems reported hearing faint, rhythmic whispers coming through entirely disconnected headsets. Looking at this deep-sea sonar scan generated by the Horizon's equipment, operators found an anomaly directly beneath the hull. The object registered as larger than any known submarine, extending downward beyond the maximum scanning range, like a massive vertical pillar. The water temperature around the hull dropped nearly 20 degrees in a matter of minutes. Frost began forming thick across the metal railings of the deck, even though the surrounding air remained relatively warm. The expedition was no longer dealing with a geographical location. They were trapped inside a localized anomaly that actively suppressed modern physics. As dawn broke, the lookout spotted another vessel floating less than half a mile away. It was the Meridian. 24 years had passed since it vanished, yet the hull showed no signs of rust, storm damage, or natural aging. The crew launched a small boat and boarded the freighter. They found coffee cups sitting on tables in the mess hall and personal computers still powered on. Every personal belonging sat exactly where it had been left, but not a single person was on board. Mercer searched the captain's quarters and located the physical logbook. The final, abrupt entry read, "The water is becoming still. We can hear them singing." While investigators searched the cargo holds, the fog around the Horizon began to thin. Radar pinged multiple contacts. Dozens of vessels from different eras were drifting silently on the glass-like sea, including fishing boats and century-old military transports. The Quiet Water functioned as a repository. Ships that wandered into the coordinates were pulled into a state of chronological stasis and kept there, perfectly preserved on the surface. The power aboard the Horizon suddenly failed, leaving both ships drifting in silence. Then, a melody began rising from beneath the water. It consisted of hundreds of voices harmonizing in a sound completely devoid of human language. Crew members began experiencing intense emotional swings, crying or smiling uncontrollably at the sound. One crew member named Daniel stepped away from the group, walked to the edge of the deck, and stepped directly into the black water without a single word of hesitation. Examining water samples from the region, researchers isolated microscopic organisms unknown to science that constantly emit rhythmic bioelectric signals. When the medical officer checked the crew's blood, they found the identical organisms already inside them, pulsing in perfect synchronization with their red blood cells. The ocean was not just swallowing ships, it was physically infiltrating and coordinating the people inside them. On the third day trapped in the anomaly, a storm front appeared, but as the crew watched, the storm moved away from them in every direction simultaneously. The horizon cleared to reveal massive, mile-high black walls, completely encircling their position. The sea below them started to emit a pale underwater glow. Millions of lights illuminated the depths as ancient geometric black towers began to breach the surface of the water, tearing through the perfectly still ocean. A single voice echoed directly into the minds of the crew, welcoming them back. Mercer collapsed as foreign memories flooded her consciousness, images of sailors from the 19th century arriving exactly as the horizon had. Looking down into the illuminated streets beneath the waves, the crew saw thousands of figures moving between the towers. They were human in shape, standing still in the water, looking upward at the ships. The memories Mercer recovered showed these same figures standing in the same streets centuries ago, waiting for the arrival of new vessels. The city had been accumulating these ships and their crews for generations, archiving them within its architecture. Official reports state the horizon was found drifting near Newfoundland 6 days later. Only 4 crew members remained aboard. The ship's internal calendars indicated 7 full days had been entirely erased from their systems. Investigators extracting data from the horizon's hard drives discovered hundreds of authenticated files, including this recovered footage. The imagery shows a vast, illuminated metropolis stretching across the ocean floor. World governments immediately classified all photographs, video, and biological data retrieved from the expedition. Rachel Mercer gave one final statement to investigators before disappearing from public record in 2034. Officially, the missing cargo ships remain unsolved cases, yet commercial captains navigating specific regions of the North Atlantic continue to report catching radio signals that consist entirely of distant, harmonized singing. The city remains active. In her final statement, Mercer provided a final set of measurements. The black towers are now hundreds of feet closer to the surface than they were during the Meridian's disappearance.